Hey, everybody. So, today I want to talk about how sometimes God puts a soft close cabinet in our lives. What do I mean by that? Well, have you ever been so upset with your spouse and you thought, you know what? They're just not getting it. Try to explain it again, and that doesn't work. So, you think maybe I'll explain it a little louder. And when that doesn't work, maybe I can put a little dramatic emphasis that would help, and maybe then they'll get it, right? So here's what happened. In the kitchen, Rick and I are having a little bit of a conflict. I don't even remember what the conflict was about, but I do remember how I reacted. So at the time, I didn't understand what was happening inside of me. All I knew what was happening was between us. So we're having this conflict, and he's not getting it. So I think I'll say it a little louder, because maybe if I say it louder and he didn't understand it the first time, maybe the second time he'll get it that time. And when he doesn't get it, and I'm amping myself up, and the conversation's getting louder, and I think, what else can I do? I need to really put some emphasis on this. And so I decide, not very smart, that for kind of to prove a point, like make sure that he gets how upset I am about what was going on. I'm gonna slam the cabinet door, just kind of put an emphasis on what's going on and what I'm feeling about the situation, right? Now, let me give you a little backstory. We had to redo our kitchen. And as a result, Rick took care of all the details of it. What I didn't know at the time of installation, so this is not very long after we first got our brand new cabinets, is that he put soft close cabinets in our kitchen. So I'm going to make an emphasis, and I'm going to slam the cabinet door just so he knows how upset I am. And as I go to do that, there's resistance. I know, I know. So I can't slam the cabinet for emphasis, but what did happen was it was kind of like this little tap on the shoulder. This is what I always say. This is my relationship with God, and He's like, "Hey, Jenny, I think something's going on with you." It's this gentle reminder. He just whispers in my ear, "Hey, Jenny, I think something's going on with you." The cabinet wouldn't close, but it was my signal that something was happening inside of me. And at this point of the story, I have learned some of the skills and tools on how to do marriage in a healthy way, how to manage conflict differently. I wasn't doing it at the time, but I knew those skills. And when I got God's gentle reminder, it was like, oh, yeah, I think I probably need to slow down and do something different. Because here's the truth, the cabinet wasn't the problem. And honestly, Rick wasn't even the problem. Something deeper was happening inside of me. Sometimes the size of our reaction isn't about the size of the event. And maybe that feels familiar to you. I've shared with you before that I grew up in a home where my parents divorced, and I was often caught in the middle of their conflict. Now, I came into marriage with hopes and dreams about what I wanted our marriage to look like. But I also came into it with some ideas on and some experiences that shaped the way that I saw relationships. We all do this, okay? Now, when we walk into a relationship, we don't walk into it clean. We bring our family experiences, we bring expectations and fears, we bring beliefs that we have, previous hurts we've experienced, the definition that we have brought in about what love looks like and feels like. We have been taught about the ideas of conflict and how to handle them, and ways even that we've learned how to protect ourselves when conflict is happening. Maybe we fight, maybe we flee, whatever that is. We have brought things into the relationship that we have previously assigned meaning and beliefs. And sometimes, more often than not, our spouse touches one of those places without even realizing it. So you see, the event isn't always the whole story. What happened versus what I made it mean. And let me give you an example. So what happened was Rick didn't respond the way that I wanted him to. And what I might make that mean is, you know what, he just doesn't care. Or I'm not important. Or maybe I feel alone in this. See how I made a meaning about what was going on between us. And then once I start to believe that meaning, my emotions follow. And so we will amp up that feeling and we will attach emotion and meaning, and they get connected. Okay? That's why two people can have the same exact experience during an event and have completely different perspectives. Have you ever had a different perspective than your spouse and you were in the same moment at the same time? That's because our belief system impacts the way that we experience things. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to learn how to pause. When you're in conflict, before you react, learn how to pause. Ask yourself a couple of questions. What am I feeling? Go beyond, I feel angry, because anger is that secondary emotion that helps protect the more vulnerable part of the story for you. And so when you feel angry, try and ask yourself, I wonder what's underneath of that. Is it that I feel rejected? Do I feel afraid? Am I lonely? Do I feel unimportant? There's all kinds of emotional words. Maybe you're feeling overwhelmed or disrespected. Whatever that is, see if you can put a name to it more than I feel angry. And especially more than I feel angry at you, because that's the blame game. We don't want to play that. We want to figure out what's going on inside of us. And then ask yourself, once you figure out what you're feeling, and this is a big one, what story am I telling myself about what just happened? Okay, because the story I tell myself isn't always the truth about the story. All I know is what I've seen, or the distorted beliefs maybe that I brought in. What is the story I'm telling myself? Is it that I feel unimportant? And so then the story, it becomes, I'm always unimportant. Rick doesn't think I'm important. And then I go on and have that record play, because I don't want to have that story playing. It impacts the way that I do relationship with my spouse. And then you can ask something like, I wonder what God would want me to know about me, about Rick, about the truth in this particular situation, about our relationship. See if you can find God's truth to help you center in that moment. So when I feel unimportant and I want to not tell myself the story that Rick thinks I'm unimportant too and he doesn't care about me, what does God have to say? Well, God says that I'm so important that he sent his son for me, that I have that much value and worth, that he cares that deeply about me. And you know what? He also cares that deeply about Rick. So find something to kind of anchor when you're starting to feel those emotions take hold, and find some new perspective and new truths about what's going on in the situation. And I mentioned earlier, we don't want to play the blame game. We want to take responsibility for the way that we react. Now, this doesn't mean that we give our spouse like a free pass and that they didn't do anything wrong. We just recognize where we have control. And the place that I have power and control is what's going on within me. And this is important. I can't control Rick, but I can control what I do with what happens inside of me. That's called maturity. For years, Rick and I both looked at each other and we were like, you know what? God is the only one that can provide for us. But we looked at each other and thought, you know what? I want you to do the providing for me instead of God. We asked our spouse to show up for us in ways that only God can. And we kind of got those things mixed up for a while. So I want to invite you to learn who's the real source. God is your source. Your spouse is a resource. Don't get it mixed up. See, Rick doesn't have to be responsible for my emotional well-being in order for him to love me well. Ooh, that was a tough one for me, because when we walked into marriage, I really thought that Rick was responsible for that. And I had to learn probably after 25 years that I had that mixed up. And it was a profound marriage lesson for me because it gave me some power back when I had been looking to him to be the one to make me feel better, when it's actually my job to take care of my emotions and be able to take that to the Lord and to do something different with it. Because really, the reality is, I want to show up differently, and I don't want to do and say things that are outside of my integrity when conflict's happening. So, how do we do that? You might ask. Like, what does that actually look like? So, I'm going to give you this little reset tool. What you do when you're already activated. Okay, because that's going to happen. You're not going to be perfect. And once you start learning some skills about marriage, hope that your conflict goes away. That's not the goal. The goal is, how do I do this differently so conflict can be safe and it can lead us to connection? So it's called reset. And we're going to recognize. First, we got to recognize that we are activated. If I don't recognize it, I'm going to blow right through it and cause a lot of damage. Okay. 2 is E, which is exhale. And now that means take a deep breath. Whew, man, slow your body down. Just slow your roll. Okay. Recognize you need something. Exhale for a minute. Just take a beat. And then you're going to seek the deeper meaning. Okay. What's really happening inside of me? What's the story I'm telling myself? Ask those questions. What am I feeling? What's the story? What's the truth about that? Seek the deeper meaning. And then E, the second E, is ease. Okay. And you want to ease your body and your emotions before responding. Maybe I need a nap. Maybe I haven't eaten, or I'm not did. Maybe I've amped myself up and I need to do a little bit of de-escalating. But do something to care well for you before you engage, because this gives your heart a chance to open. Allow God's truth into the situation, okay? And then once you've done that, then you can turn toward connection, okay? But we want to take care of us first before we ever turn back towards the relationship. We always want to come back to the conversation, and we can ask, okay, are we in a place where we can maybe revisit and talk about this? I want to slow things down and give ourselves a chance for our hearts to open and find connection about the thing that just went off the rails. Okay, so back to my soft close cabinet. Okay, I still laugh when I think about the cabinet. I sometimes I'm just like, did I really do that? And am I telling everybody that I really did that? Yeah, it really happened. I was ready to slam that thing and make my point, and instead the soft closed door, it stopped me. Okay. And at the time I thought, you know what, this is so frustrating because he's just not getting it. But now I know, when I look back on it, it was God saying, hey, you need to pause. Take a minute to reset so you guys can have a connection around what was going on. So that moment of resistance in the cabinet gave me a chance to step back and go, hey, Jenny, what's really happening here? Sometimes the resistance in our marriage isn't there to stop us. Sometimes it slows us down long enough to help us see what we couldn't see when we were reacting. Okay. So for the next 7 days, your marriage momentum challenge is that whenever you have a strong reaction to your spouse, I want you to stop and do a little bit of like intentional work around it. Maybe you write it down and you say, what was I feeling? What was the story I was telling myself? What did I really make it mean? And what's the truth? What's the actual truth? Because a lot of times what we think was the truth and what's really the truth are two different things, because our mind can make us think things when our emotions are taking control. You know, we might tell ourselves, well, the truth is Rick doesn't care, but that's not the truth. That's the message I've assigned. The truth is we're still working at this. We're still learning. We're still trying to figure out how to do this differently, because we've got some years of how we did things not in a healthy way, and we got to untangle those. We're still committed to each other. The truth is we've been married for 35 years, and I love Rick and Rick loves me. He's my Mr. Commitment. Those are our truths. What are your truths? Write those down. And then figure out, what's a healthy response look like for me right now? Don't wait until you're in a major fight. Okay, here's your tip. Practice it with the little things, because the little things are where we will build that muscle memory. You don't have to become a person who never gets triggered, who stops having emotions, or even try to become a perfect spouse. Okay. Instead, be a curious spouse, someone who can say, something is happening inside of me. Let me slow down, understand it before I try to put it on you. Because every time you pause instead of react, you're creating a new pattern. Every time you instead of defensive, you're creating. And every time you take responsibility instead of blaming, you're creating a new pattern. That's how marriage changes. If you're listening today and you're realizing we keep having the same reactions, the same arguments, man, these patterns are happening over and over. I want you to know that you're not alone. And you don't have to figure this out by yourselves. This is the kind of work that we do inside the Elite Marriage Coaching. I help couples get clear about what they're building, understand the patterns that they're getting in the way, and develop the skills that they need. We create habits that produce lasting change. So if you'd like to explore whether Elite Marriage Coaching is the right fit for you and your marriage, you can apply for a private marriage vision call. I'm putting it in the chat right now. So you can click that link and it'll send you to book a call with me. I'll also put it in the description below so that if you're watching this later, you can click that link. Schedule a call. Let's see if it's a good fit for you. Your marriage is a message. Let's make it one worth echoing. Until next time, see ya.